Well, I had some plans for other videos, but those have been put on hold for the moment because my main PC decided to stop working. So the point of this video is to tell you to not be like me and back up your stuff. As reliable as technology has become over the years, it's not perfect, and sometimes you can end up losing your stuff at no fault of your own. I've been using a pre-built gaming PC since the start of this year, and it's been an experience. My last pre-built honestly was pretty great apart from a few minor issues I was able to solve, but I feel like the point of a pre-built is that I should just be able to set it up, turn it on, and never need to mess with it again to get it to work properly. When I first got the PC, I was running into constant blue screens that I eventually learned were caused by the RAM. But I was able to get new RAM from said company after a week or two that was better than before. However, things weren't over just yet, because after slotting in the new RAM, I was met with nothing but RGB and 2 debug lights on the motherboard. After an hour or two of reseating the RAM, it worked. And since then, I've let it be and haven't really had any issues apart from some very infrequent freezes that might have just been caused by me not updating my graphics drivers frequently. But recently, I decided to try and use the M.2 drive I picked up for cheap that's been sitting around for years now. And the drive worked fine. It was detected by my BIOS and everything. But after exiting the BIOS, my PC was once again showing those 2 debug lights. And since then, it hasn't successfully booted. I've tried most of the solutions for this stuff, but I've had absolutely no luck. While it sucks to not be able to use it for the time being, the bigger issue is that I didn't back up some of the other important stuff. I have most of my footage backed up, but what was more important was some of the scripts I had for upcoming videos, including a 50-page script for a very long video in the near future, as well as most of my recordings of those scripts, which are all stuck on that drive. All of this could have just been solved by me backing up my stuff before doing this, but now it's too late. I doubt I'll lose the data, since I don't think it's an issue with my main drive, but not having access to those files currently sets me back a bit. I had a Super Collapse 3 video in the works that was all recorded and ready to go, but now the script recording is stuck on that drive, and the script itself was too, so I can't just re-record it. To be honest, this is probably a blessing in disguise because I felt like I could have done better, so I guess remaking the thing from scratch will give me a chance to do that. But I figured I'd also use this opportunity so people don't make the same mistake I did. I'm actually pretty diligent with backing stuff up normally. Given that on my old PC, I wasn't sure if it just wouldn't turn on one day. I would save all my recordings to an external hard drive and back up the rest of the stuff I wanted to back up on that drive too. However, I've been a bit lax on my new PC, and there's a lot of stuff I missed. When backing up stuff, you really need to make sure you get everything you might need. You might back up your photos, but that won't back up all of the photos on your PC. You might be missing your screenshots or downloaded images that are in separate folders, so make sure you get those too. While I had most of my footage backed up, I didn't back up other important things like my scripts, my recordings of those scripts, my thumbnails, or even my backgrounds, all of which are just as important. As a general rule of thumb, I'd say back up anything that's work-related or school-related, any photos or videos you feel are important, including screenshots or downloaded photos and videos, and any other important files that you'd want backed up. Stuff like game saves, project files, or a bunch of random stock images you stole off the school computers back in high school. Yeah, I don't know why we had all of these, but you bet I copied them onto my flash drive for whenever I needed them. Okay, but how do I go about backing these things up? Obviously, you could just manually copy the files, but that's pretty tedious and you're bound to forget something. Instead, I recommend a program called DirSync Pro. I've been using this program for a few years and I really like it. Maybe that's because it's written in Java and has a UI that reminds me of when I used to code in Java. Oh, and speaking of coding in Java, well, look at that. It's a program I wrote in Java to tell you to subscribe. But the great thing about DirSync Pro is that it's just simple to back stuff up with it. All you have to do is create a job to back up one folder to another, and then start that job. For the purposes of backing up, I'd recommend leaving it on the initial settings. Mirror A to B will simply let the backup folder be an exact copy of the source folder, while other modes will do different things that may not entirely back up the folder as it is. You can also schedule this task to happen automatically, but you need the program to remain open. It can minimize to the system tray, keeping it out of your way, but since it's written in Java, it will take up a little bit of RAM. I doubt this really matters for almost anyone with a modern PC, but if you're like me currently and you've only got a sluggish 8GB of RAM on a dated machine, then it might be eating up too much of that precious RAM. But when I do get my main PC back, you bet your ass this thing is running all the time when it's on. The final thing I wanted to talk about is where you should back up your data. You could back it up to another folder on the same drive, but there's not much of a reason to do that, since if the drive fails, then that backup doesn't matter. The best way to store backups is going to be through another drive unless you've got a NAS. But given that most people barely have the time to back up their stuff, I doubt that most people have the time to set up a NAS. You can just plug in another drive into your motherboard if you need faster storage, but I prefer using external drives for this stuff, since they're pretty simple to use. You just plug them in and bam, they just work. Just stay away from the shady ones that seem a little too good to be true. $20 for a 20TB drive is just not financially viable for a company, so it's either going to have a major drawback like abysmal speeds, or more likely, you're just getting scammed. Stick with reputable brands like Western Digital, Samsung, Seagate, and so on. Since that way, you know your data is at least safe for a while. But while we're on this topic, let's just mention that these backups aren't perfect. Theoretically, you could have a failure on your main drive and on your backup drive, which is why companies or data hoarders might have multiple backups of their backups. But even if only one backup might not save you in every situation, having one backup is better than not having a backup at all. And that pretty much sums up the process of backing stuff up. It really isn't all that complicated, especially with the help of programs that automate the whole process for you. And not only is it more convenient, but thanks to better read and write speeds over the years, it takes far less time than it used to. If you're taking your data's safety for granted, take some time and back up your valuable stuff, because otherwise, you'll be the one telling people to back up their stuff someday. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.